Yo, what is up, Crockxen clan members? Legend of Korra fans, or Avatar: The Last Airbender fans. What is up? What is going on? My name is SoresanCrockxen, and today it is going to be the comparison video slash which series is better in my opinion. I'm gonna try to do I'm gonna try to do it anime time style, where I do like sections talking about different things. Try to keep myself structured and all that stuff. So let's get started with that. Alright, so when we think about the story aspect of both individual series, we gotta see it like this. Avatar: The Last Airbender had one continuous story that kept building upon itself, but it still was the same story throughout all 3 seasons. Whereas Legend of Korra was actually 4 separate storylines in each season. Like, it was one separate storyline in each separate season. There were certain times where they try to tie it all together, but it wasn't really done really well. So when we think about it, Last Airbender, it was all about Aang coming back, to life. Essentially, he literally came back to life. And it has been 100 years since he froze. Since he basically was frozen underwater. And he has to master all 4 elements in a certain time period, because Fire Lord Ozai is planning to take over the world by being the ruler of everything, because the Fire Nation is all high and mighty and all that stuff. And it's been a war that has been going on for a very long time. So he has to master all 4 elements to be able to stop this whole thing from happening. And basically the story is just his progress going through everything to try to get to that certain point, so he has the ability to stop Ozai. Whereas in Legend of Korra, you have the first season, which was all about Amon and the Equalists and trying to kick all benders out of Republic City because benders are evil and all this that kind of ideology. Season 2 was all about Unalaq trying to take over the world because spirits are important, and I honestly am still lost with that storyline. Season 3 wasn't even any better. You had Zahir and his gang of Red Lotus members trying to balance out the world by killing off important figures in certain countries to take down the monarchy, right? And then season 4 was all about a dictator who was trying to take over the Earth Empire, or the Earth Kingdom, turning it into the Earth Empire and trying to reclaim Republic City as territory of that new dictatorship land. You see the problem there, right? You have 4 completely separate storylines, and none of them tying together in any way because they're all different things. In fact, most of those characters... Okay, Amon died. Okay, Unalaq dead. Zahir was in prison. All 3 of his members killed. And then you have Kuvira and her army. Well, they're all in prison. That's all we know. I mean, we only get to see Kuvira in prison. So all these main characters have nothing in common. They're not anywhere near each other. There's no purpose for them to be even relevant to the others. Like I said, they did try to tie it in when Zahir was trying to poison Korra, and all of a sudden she started getting visions of her previous enemies, but that wasn't really great. It wasn't a good way to tie the stories in. In fact, it just felt kind of like last minute. Oh my gosh, we got to tie in this whole story in some way. Let's just throw in previous bad guys as Korra going insane. It doesn't work. So yeah, that's basically the story aspect. So let's move on. Now, animation. Animation, I have to say, is actually on par for both. I like the way both series look. They both look great. They both look beautiful. They both look polished. The music in both of them is amazing. I do tend to lean more towards The Last Airbender music. I don't know what it was about. I mean, maybe it's just nostalgia. The soundtrack just to me sounds better than Legend of Korra. But they did draw a lot of inspiration for the music from The Last Airbender. So I mean, I gotta give them props for that. The music is fine. The music is great. Like I said, the animation looked smooth. It looked great. Both every character looked phenomenal in my opinion. I like the fact that they still drew inspiration from anime because as we all know, I love anime a lot. It's like one of my passions all the time. Take that as you will. But they both look amazing. They both look great. I will leave. I will give Korra the fact that they stuck to their guns and they still made it look gorgeous. It looked beautiful. Um, but I gotta say it's got to be a tie between them. I can't really choose one over the other. I'm sorry. It's really hard to do. So let's move on. All right, here's the big one. Characters. This is where Legend of Korra flops, like just horribly. Avatar: The Last Airbender, on the other hand, is like just way up there in terms of how awesome it can be. The thing with The Last Airbender, for me personally, is the fact that all four main characters shown at all times. And even when you added Zuko in, it's not like he was just left in the back. He had his moments as well. In fact, he was a very important role in the development of all the other characters, and they all had a special, except for Toph, because I mean they made that a joke. But every other character had a moment with Zuko where they both had some huge development because of the interactions they had together. So it was able to bring in characters and just have them be like, hey, this is gonna be awesome because we're having this character, and all the characters are the same amount of importance to where you don't feel like if we dedicate an episode to this one character, you're gonna be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe we're watching this character do something. They all have their personalities that shine. They all have the way they interact with each other is amazing. The way they play out most of the stories, the rivalries. You have Zuko with Azula. I hate Azula, and I'm supposed to hate her. They really make you hate the villains. Ozai was the same thing. I mean, I didn't hate him as much as Azula, but I still didn't like the guy. I really hated what he was doing. I hated what everything was going on with him. I hated the Earth Kingdom because of what Ba Sing Se. I hated everything that happened there. The whole Appa. Okay, you're talking about a bison, and they were still making it look important. They had a whole arc dedicated to the thing, and they had like an emotional pull every single time they showed. Even Momo, who was supposed to be the comic relief, had moments. And the fact that when Appa disappeared, you have these shining moments with Momo was like he misses his friend. He really wants to find his friend. He's going to find his friend. The way they built up all the characters in The Last Airbender made you feel and like every single one. Even like you had Iroh, who's this smart, intelligent man who's struggling between helping his nephew and sticking up because he's part of the Fire Nation. And the wisdom that he gives off to the characters, every single one of them gets some type of conversation with Iroh, and it just oh my gosh, it was so amazing, it was so great. Whereas with Legend of Korra, on the other hand, it just felt like most of the characters just kept flopping up and down like. Poor Asami. Like Asami was one of my favorite characters since season 1. What was so important about her after season 1? We had the strife with her and her father in season 1, and they kind of hinted at the fact that Asami might turn because Mako started going with Korra. They did that, and then after that, she just kind of fell. We didn't even see much of her in season 2, or let alone season 3. And even in season 4, she wasn't really important until the very end. And she's supposed to be a main character. How? Mako is the same thing. Mako was awesome in the beginning, kind of irrelevant in season 2. Season 3, it was more of this whole Korra and Asami problems situation, and in season 4, once again, until the very end, he's not really important. Same with Bolin. In fact, Bolin is probably the one that got the most importance in season 4 because, well, he worked for Kuvira, so he had to deal with the whole being with Kuvira's side, having Opal's situation, trying to help the Earth Empire because he thinks they're doing good, and then finding out all the bad stuff, so he has to go back to Republic City to try to warn everybody. Like he got a big push in season 4, but season 1 he was one of the least important characters. Season 2 was the same thing. Season 3 gave him some importance because they gave him lava bending, and that's such a very unique skill. It's like you have 4 main characters, yet you really have no consistency with any of them. Even Korra, she was completely irrelevant the first couple episodes of season 4, and then the previous seasons it just felt like she just hadn't progressed at all. Like, oh, she's the Avatar, yet she gets little progress throughout the series. You don't hate any of the villains either. I personally did not hate. I mean, I really disliked Amon. I hated not Tonrag. See, I don't even remember the dude's name anymore. What was his name? His brother. I can't remember for the life of me. Tarlok. I hated Tarlok more than Amon. That's bad. Your main villain character is not as hated as your. But then again, the same thing happened. No, because even Azula was a more evil character because she was there since season 2, and she was a very important villain character throughout that. And then they made it even more important because the thing with Zuko and all that. But I still hated Ozai. The fact of the matter is, I didn't really hate Amon as much as I probably should have. I did not hate Unalaq at all. I honestly didn't. Vaatu wasn't even that threatening either, so I didn't really care about him. So here, I actually somewhat agreed with his mentality, which is bad. You're not supposed to agree with the villain ever. You're supposed to hate the villain, and even his companions. I actually liked most of them. The dude with lava bending, the fact, the whole thing with him and Bolin. That was a nice touch. I like the characters. I'm not supposed to like the villains. I'm supposed to hate them and like the fact that I hate them because I'm supposed to hate them. Kuvira was a great finale because I hated Kuvira from the very beginning. So at least they were able to redeem themselves with that aspect, because before that, I honestly did not have a really huge hatred for any of the villains. I actually hated, what was it, Commander Zhao. I actually hated the dude because he was such a dick to Zuko. Zuko, you're not supposed to hate him. I mean, I kind of disliked him in the beginning, but I never truly hated him because I wasn't supposed to hate him because he's going to be a good guy later on. We had that idea, and then he ended up being a good guy. So when you have a show like this where you're constantly introducing certain characters, you can't just drop them off the face of the earth, okay? Or at least in the sense of they're not really relevant throughout the season they're in. Tarlok was made to look like an asshole in the beginning, and then he just kind of like floated in the abyss, and then he had his bright moment at the very end where he committed suicide while killing his own brother, Amon, which was another thing. Why did Amon die via Tarlok? Why didn't Korra have anything to do with that? Korra didn't even. It's okay. I liked season 1. I'm not gonna bash it. Okay, I don't want to bash it. It's season 2 and season 3 that was my biggest gripe. I didn't really dislike Unalaq. I didn't. I thought he was okay. I didn't like him, but I mean, I honestly there was no like this disdain for the character. I just didn't care, to be quite honest. His threats seemed really empty, and the fact that he actually did help out in the beginning, and his idea of the spirits need to be free, I honestly wasn't against that either. It's just the things that made some of those seasons special is when they brought back characters from the first series. Zuko shows up. I was kind of disappointed that he didn't get to do much, but Zuko shows up. That's badass. Katara, cool. And then you have Toph at the very last scene. That was amazing. So you have moments like that where Where sometimes you need the characters from the even when Aang shows up, like that stuff was badass. But how is it that you need to have characters from the previous series to make your stories somewhat relevant? That's actually really bad. You're supposed to, yes, it's nice to see characters from before, but you need to have characters that are intriguing enough to where you don't need to bring them back in that certain manner as if you needed a lifeline. Also, what happened to freaking uh this is one of the things that bothered me. Like we saw Toph, that's fine. Toph was one of my. I guess this is another thing. I can't choose favorite characters in the original series. It's really hard because I like most of them. It's almost impossible. It's actually I can't say it's impossible for me to pick one character over the others because I like them all so much. Whereas with this one, the characters I like the most floundered around. Like I said, Asami was one of the character I liked the most in season 1. But then she became irrelevant, so I had to find somebody new. And Korra was okay in season 2, but it's like it's bad. Okay, I'm sorry. It's really, really bad when I have to constantly switch out a character that I really like because they're not going to be important at all. But okay, so here's my thing. What happened to Sokka? Okay, we understand. I understand he's dead. Okay, I get it. He had a wife. He got Suki. Where's his kids? We didn't see anything related to Sokka at all. We saw Katara, and she had 3 kids. We got to see all 3 of them. Then again, I mean, that was with Aang. And then we got Toph, and we got to see her 2 kids. And then we got to see Zuko's kid, or even his grandchild, I think is what it is. Wait, where is Sokka's kids? Like, why didn't they give? He was important. That was the thing. Sokka was comic relief, yet he was so important to the story that they dedicated moments to him. They dedicated episodes to him. Okay, he's the comic relief, and he still has his emotional moments. I didn't get that in Korra at all. I'm sorry. Excuse me. I am sorry. It's just they flopped, and I will say this. Nickelodeon had a lot of problems with this whole thing because they really rushed some of the stuff, and their seasons were very limited. 12 episodes is not enough to like really exploit a lot of these characters. Avatar: The Last Airbender had way more episodes each season than Korra did. I think 1 season of The Last Airbender equals 2 in Legend of Korra. That's really bad. That's not enough time to develop a character. But yeah, so that's characters right there. Moving on. All right, now normally in this, after I talk about characters, I usually like to talk about final episodes. But this is not an anime time. It's supposed to be a versus, comparison video between 2 series that are supposed to be made by the same creator. What I'm gonna do for this part, and it's not gonna have its own special title card either because it's something different. This is a thing that I realized. People kept telling me this too. I knew about it. The biggest flop of Legend of Korra, one of the biggest issues it had. This is the big deal. Legend of Korra started off very promising. It did. Season 1 was pretty good. It was pretty decent. I liked it a lot. I was very excited for the series. And then season 2 came out over a year later. That was the problem. People forget, okay? You're talking. People nowadays tend to just push away stuff that's not shown to them right away. They forget. They move on, essentially. That's what happened there. Not only that, you changed the time slot. You changed the day. When you have season 1 at such a prime time slot, you're gonna get a lot of viewership because people were watching TV at that time, and then it was actually at a perfect time on a Saturday. Then you moved it to Fridays, right? You moved it to Fridays at night. Actually, yeah, at night, right? People aren't really concerned with that stuff. It's not a prime time. It's not a prime slot. It's not. And then not only that, it took you a year to release it. Then you rushed it. That season 2 didn't last very long. In season 3, it was gonna take longer than when it came out. But you had to rush it out. Why? Because apparently some of the episodes got leaked by a certain person in another place that dubs it. No advertisement. You didn't talk about the series. In fact, you just pushed it out without letting anybody know. How are people gonna know you have a show if you don't advertise it? You don't promote it. You don't show it anywhere. I think I maybe saw one Legend of Korra commercial on Nickelodeon. When after it came out, not before, after it came out. And then you rushed through that too, because there was multiple episodes or multiple weeks where you had 2 episodes in one day. And the problem is that because you rushed it that much, your viewership went way down, and then you figured it was the show's fault that this was happening, which to an extent season 3 was horrible, but you, Nickelodeon, you're also to blame. You didn't promote the thing, and you rushed it. So it was just really bad timing. And then again, horrible time slot. And you took it down from TV to put it online on a service that I'm sorry to say is a piece of crap. Okay, your TV online thing is bullshit. I'm gonna say that to your face. It is just completely horrible. And then you put it on an even worse time slot than before. Okay, you put it, I think it was at noon. Kids are at school. Okay, kids are at so obviously the viewers is not going to be at that exact time. And since your thing is so crappy, half the time the thing is not even going to work. Right? So that thing is horrible. It's horrible. And then season 4, the same thing. You didn't announce the thing. There was no promotion for it either. And again, you started off online. Bad move. And then apparently somehow something told you, hey, we're gonna put it on TV after you were done with half of the series online. And you were gonna start it over on TV on a horrible time slot. So I'm not saying this excuses how bad some of season 2 and season 3 were. I'm not saying that. But it's a really important reason as to why it was so bad. The creative team of Legend of Korra had no breathing room, no creativity room. They were limited to such an extent, and the company that showed off their series did not promote it. That doesn't excuse season 3. Okay, I still say that is the worst season. But I'm not going to throw all the blame onto the creators. Because Nickelodeon really dropped the ball with this series. Because The Last Airbender was flawlessly promoted, it was flawlessly made, and it was at a prime time slot. Not only that, but the seasons came out close together. Alright, so to end off this video, you obviously can already tell I prefer The Last Airbender to Legend of Korra 1,000,000 to 1. There's a lot of problems with the production of Legend of Korra, and Nickelodeon, like I said, really dropped the ball on the series. But even the worst promotion, the worst time slot, the worst everything that Nickelodeon did to Legend of Korra, it does not excuse horrible writing. There are plenty of series out there that can get a lot of things done right in the same amount of time frame as Legend of Korra, each Legend of Korra season. Sometimes even less. The Last Airbender was, to me, almost a perfect show. It had interesting characters. an interesting plot, interesting, you know, settings. It was beautifully created, beautifully crafted. The music was phenomenal, and it's a show that everybody who's watched it has loved. I have not heard a single person that has watched The Last Airbender and told me they hated it. Legend of Korra, on the other hand, while some people like it, there's a lot of people that don't. So at the end of the day, all I gotta say is, The Last Airbender was just a much better made, better produced, and just an overall better show. Legend of Korra had a lot of promise, just kind of flopped. It did have a strong ending, I'll give it that. But even the best of endings does not excuse the worst start or the worst middle. Anyways, guys, that is going to be it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section down below. Which one of these two do you prefer? Let me know. Maybe you're not like me. Maybe you actually do love Legend of Korra in all its ways. But as always, thank you guys so much for watching. I'm SoresanCrockxen, and I'll see you guys in future videos.